Hello, this is Luke Stokes. It's Monday, 8/16, March 2nd, AST time. I'm unfortunately here to inform you that the Steem blockchain has been essentially centralized. Let's dive right into it. You can see here the top witnesses have all been replaced by a massive amount of Steemit, Steem power, by accounts controlled by Steemit Incorporated and centralized exchanges. You can see here this account dev365 just recently, just this morning, got voting support from Huobi, Poloniex, Binance, and these other accounts. And then they went ahead and unilaterally replaced all the top 20 witnesses. So when we look here and we see these are the witnesses elected by the community, individuals, their individual stake, deciding how they want things to go. And this is the group elected by centralized exchanges. They just posted about it. I got texts on my phone telling me all my witness servers were basically on a fork at this point. And I'm very disappointed in the stance that they've taken and the actions that they've taken. They've essentially blamed the witnesses for, the original version said that our action may be considered criminal. I think they may have removed that. No, they still have that in there, deemed illegal and criminal, even though it was temporary action to maintain the status quo. It was actually action to prevent what just happened. That's what our attempt was as witnesses. We saw the very real danger that the Steemit stake would be used to do exactly this, which is essentially remove consensus and replace it with just the will of a very small number of people, the will of those who have the money. You can see the response so far has been understandably pretty upset. The community is not happy about this. A lot of these posts are being even downvoted and flagged by that stake. The community is upset. Essentially, my home on the internet, my home on the blockchain is now controlled by a small group of people. And that's pretty frustrating. I blogged about this, talking about what is property, talking about the delicate nature of what we did. And Justin seemed to respond favorably and said, yeah, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a meeting, but that meeting isn't until Wednesday. So I was concerned, why was there such a delay? We could have met the very next day. And now we know why. The delay was to make this all happen. And I understand a lot of people didn't agree with this. They think maybe it was a provocation. I didn't look at it that way. It was one of the most difficult decisions I've made. I've done a video about it if you want to read, watch more about my thoughts on this change. But here we are. I did this post 17 days ago saying essentially they can buy Steemit, but they can't buy the Steem blockchain. Well, apparently I was wrong. They did just buy the Steem blockchain, and they did so with the influence of the centralized exchanges. And this brings up cryptocurrency rule number 1. If you don't control the private keys, you don't own the cryptocurrency. Someone else does, and you're hoping they'll give it back later. Holding cryptocurrency on centralized exchanges defeats the purpose of decentralized programmable money. And we see this here. February 15th, I talked about how important this moment is for all of DPoS. And said, hey, you got to watch this closely. The blockchain is being tested. Essentially, I went so far as to say we'll soon find out how much of a blockchain Steem is. And so far, I'm sad to report. And this won't come to a big surprise to those who've been not a fan of DPoS. I think it's too centralized, too many people controlling it from one perspective, or too few people controlling it. And that's, so far, as of this morning, within the last couple hours, seems to be the case. Now, what can be done about that? What can we all do about it? Well, ultimately, your stake as a Steem community member on an exchange is what enabled this to happen. Think about that. Let that sink in. Cryptocurrency rule number 1, if you don't own the private key to your stake, someone else does. And they used your stake to do this and take over the chain. Now, if you're comfortable with that, I understand. Okay, then a small number of people make decisions about a blockchain. That's not very Byzantine fault tolerant, is it? Just, I guess, depends on how you define stake. Now, many people, ironically, who don't agree with this will probably end up giving them more power by taking all their Steem, putting it on a centralized exchange, and dumping it. And I understand the temptation to do that. I myself am tempted to do that. I can't imagine that the price of this token is going to survive when people realize how few people get to define consensus on the Steem blockchain. It also concerns me about other DPoS chains. The ironic thing about this is it should concern people about Tron, which is also a DPoS blockchain. This just demonstrated that a small group of people with enough influence and power can do this. Now, they generally wouldn't, because they recognize people go, wait, what? Oh man, this is bad. I mean, you can censor my transactions. You can do things that I thought a blockchain you weren't supposed to be able to do. Well, here you go. There's also the concern about proof of work as well, in that a small number of mining pools do control a massive amount of hashing power, and they could, in a similar way, unilaterally make decisions with that hashing power. Now, you've got full nodes, which would, in the Bitcoin world, which would hopefully, with a user issued hard fork or soft fork, prevent something like that. But again, that's yet to be tested. Anyway, that's an update. I don't have any answers as of right now. I just wanted to put this information out there so people knew what was going on, so that they knew the witnesses were aware that we are working to figure out what options we have. But right now, I think the only option that makes any sense to me is follow cryptocurrency rule number 1. Get your stake off an exchange so they don't have this much power. The irony is, if you try to do that in mass, you'll find they used your stake without your knowledge in a way that you have no control over. This stake is currently in a 13-week lockdown. They powered up your tokens to be able to have governance voting, and they can't actually give you your liquid tokens back right now. Most likely, if enough people go to exchanges and demand their tokens, you'll notice that the withdrawals will be canceled. Let me say that again. They control what you think is your tokens, and they won't give it back to you if you try to go ask for it from these major exchanges right now. Now, I can understand their perspective. They feel like they're doing what they need to do to protect their investment, and they're going to spin it as protecting the chain. But ultimately, they just demonstrated the chain is not at all safe or protected as long as a small number of people own a massive amount of the stake via centralized exchanges and can unilaterally decide how the protocol runs. There's a meeting scheduled on Wednesday. I don't have any details about that meeting yet, but it was meant to be with the witnesses and Justin Sun and the Tron community. And then after that, there was going to be a town hall on March 6th on Friday. Things got interesting. We'll see what happens next. I'll try to keep you informed. Have a great day.